Hello, everyone. She did not look like anyone the industry had chosen before. Dark skin, shaved head, fierce bone structure that refused to be softened. When Alek Wek first appeared on the runway, the fashion world paused and then divided. To some, she was too different, too African, too much. To others, she was the future. She had fled a civil war, arrived in London as a refugee, spoke little English, but within years, she was walking for Chanel and gracing the covers of international magazines. She was not just modeling, she was rewriting the blueprint. But in a world obsessed with lightness, what did it cost her to carry so much darkness and still shine? This is not just a fashion story. This is the journey of a girl who escaped death and became a symbol of fearless beauty. Alek Wek was born in 1977 in the small village of Wau, in what is now South Sudan. Her childhood was filled with sunlight, red earth, and the warmth of a tight-knit Dinka family. She was the seventh of 9 children, raised by a father who worked as an education official and a mother who sold goods at the market. They lived simply, but there was peace. Alek ran barefoot through the grass, climbed trees, swam in rivers, and helped her mother prepare meals. She was wild, curious, and full of joy. But that joy did not last. In the late 1980s, civil war erupted across Sudan. Soldiers moved through villages, families disappeared, food became scarce. One day, when Alek was still a young girl, her father injured his hip during an escape from crossfire. The injury became infected. There was no proper medical care. He died slowly, painfully, surrounded by his children. After that, everything changed. The family fled the country on foot. They walked for days without shoes, without shelter, with only each other. Alek watched her mother carry the younger children on her back, never stopping, never breaking down. That memory, she once said, gave her strength for the rest of her life. Eventually, they reached Khartoum, then moved on to London, where Alek and her sister were granted asylum. She arrived as a teenager, with nothing but trauma and a thick accent. The cold weather was strange. The city was loud. At school, she was mocked for her skin, her height, her name. People told her she looked like a boy. Some said she looked like an alien. Alek did not understand the cruelty, only that she was different. And difference was dangerous. But her mother reminded her every day that she was beautiful, that her features told the story of generations, that her skin carried the color of her people. And somehow, even through grief, even through poverty, Alek held on to that belief. She began studying fashion at the London College of Fashion. She wanted to be behind the scenes, maybe designing or styling. She had no interest in modeling. No one like her had ever been considered beautiful. But fate was waiting. One day, while shopping at a local market, she was spotted by a modeling scout. They asked her to come to an audition. She thought it was a mistake, but the world was about to see what her mother had seen all along. Alek Wek never imagined herself on a runway. When the modeling scout approached her at an outdoor market in London, she laughed. She was 19, tall, thin, still learning English, and focused on her studies. The idea of becoming a model felt absurd. No one who looked like her had ever been on a cover, but something about the encounter stayed with her. She went to the meeting, she took the photos, and within weeks, she was signed. Her early days were not glamorous. Some clients were blunt, too dark, too African, too masculine. But others saw something they had never seen before: raw beauty, fierce angles, a body that moved like it belonged to the earth. Designers in Europe were intrigued. Photographers wanted her in front of the lens. She was different. And for the first time in her life, different was power. Alek's first breakthrough came in 1995 when she appeared in Tina Turner's music video Goldeneye, catching the eye of the fashion world. That same year, she walked for Ralph Lauren and Betsey Johnson, bringing her bold walk and unshakable gaze to catwalks that had never seen a woman like her. But it was 1997 that changed everything. That year, she became the first African model to appear on the cover of Elle magazine. The reaction was explosive. For some, it was a celebration. For others, it was a scandal. Readers canceled subscriptions, editors received hate mail. The idea that a dark-skinned African refugee could represent mainstream beauty shook the industry to its core. But Alek did not flinch. She smiled wide, with the same joy she had as a barefoot child in Sudan. And in that smile, millions of girls around the world saw themselves perhaps for the first time. She walked for Chanel, Dior, Valentino, and Vivienne Westwood. She worked with Steven Meisel, Herb Ritz, and Peter Lindbergh. She appeared in Vogue, ID, and Harper's Bazaar. And each time, she brought her identity with her. She never tried to conform. She kept her hair short. She wore traditional African prints when she felt like it. She spoke proudly about being a refugee. Alek Wek did not enter fashion the usual way. She crashed through it not with arrogance, but with presence. And once she was inside, the doors could never fully close again. At the height of her career, Alek Wek was everywhere, and yet she remained unlike anyone else. She did not just walk the runway, she commanded it. With her shaved head, towering frame, and skin like polished onyx, she moved through Paris and New York as a living contradiction to everything fashion had once held sacred. She did not smile unless she wanted to. She did not soften her walk. She never tried to hide where she came from. And in doing so, she created space for an entirely new definition of beauty. Designers who once feared her look began begging for her presence. Alexander McQueen adored her. Galliano built entire collections around her strength. Issey Miyake once said she was like sculpture in motion. And when she walked, she did not glide. She stepped grounded, powerful, deliberate. Every movement said, "I am here because I choose to be." In editorials, Alek became a force of visual poetry. She could transform into a desert goddess or an intergalactic warrior with ease. Photographers captured her from angles they never dared use before. She did not need makeup to define her features. She brought her own geometry. Her bone structure became legend. Her skin tone forced cameras to adjust, lights to soften, lenses to learn. She changed the technical language of fashion just by existing in front of it. In 1998, Oprah Winfrey named her one of the most inspiring women in the world. Bill Clinton publicly praised her as a symbol of hope. Naomi Campbell called her a revolution. And yet, Alek never played the diva. She still carried the humility of the refugee girl who had walked barefoot across war zones. Even as she graced the covers of major fashion magazines and headlined global campaigns, she kept reminding the world, this is not just about me. It is about visibility. It is about giving girls who look like me the right to dream. During her peak, Alek was not just a model. She was a political act, a walking challenge to every lie the industry had told about what was desirable. She did not beg to be accepted. She redefined the standard and stood tall inside it. Her success was not a trend. It was a turning point. Alek Wek's rebellion was never loud. It was quiet, unshakable, and rooted in presence. While others conformed to the demands of the runway, she brought her entire history with her scars, strength, accent, and all. She never apologized for being African. She never diluted her identity to fit an industry addicted to sameness. And that refusal was more radical than any protest. From the beginning, she made clear that she would not play the part fashion had written for models who looked like her. She would not be exotic. She would not be silent. She would not serve as a backdrop to white narratives. She wanted the light, and she claimed it. Alek famously refused to wear wigs or straighten her hair, at a time when Black models were often pressured to appear more Eurocentric. She showed up with her head shaved, her skin glowing, and her Dinka features fully visible. She once said, "I never thought I needed to fix myself. That alone was a revolution." She rejected roles and campaigns that tried to make her a stereotype. She declined offers that required her to pose as a primitive symbol or tribal decoration. She spoke out when photographers wanted her to act wild. She challenged stylists who tried to bleach her identity out of the frame. Her beauty was not just visual, it was moral. It had a spine. And she used her platform. In interviews, she talked openly about being a refugee, about war, about displacement. She reminded audiences that fashion was fantasy, but life was real. She did not just want to sell clothes, she wanted to shift perception. She once told a crowd of young designers, "Do not just design for the mirror, design for the soul." In 2002, she became a goodwill ambassador for the United Nations, working on refugee issues and education. While other models chased fragrance deals and red carpet fame, Alek was in South Sudan, helping rebuild schools and speak to young girls who had never seen a runway but saw hope in her face. Her rebellion was not just about defying the industry, it was about redefining what success could look like. She did not bend to fashion, she bent fashion toward her, and in doing so, she carved out a new space not just for herself, but for every girl who had been told her skin was too dark, her story too foreign, her dreams too much. Alek Wek never vanished in scandal. She did not fall from the runway in shame. Her exit, if it could even be called that, was something quieter, something slower, like a tide pulling back after a storm. The spotlight moved on, trends changed. The fashion world turned its attention to new faces, new seasons, new obsessions. But Alek did not chase it. She simply stepped back, and for many, she seemed to disappear. But what most people did not see was that her retreat was intentional. After years of being the symbol, the icon, the trailblazer, Alek needed space to breathe. She had been carrying more than clothes down the runway. She had carried expectations, history, pain, and the weight of representation. She had been celebrated and questioned in equal measure, and she was tired. In interviews during the 2010s, Alek spoke openly about the emotional cost of being a first, the pressure to always be graceful, the loneliness of being the only one in the room. She had walked through war zones, survived exile, shattered beauty standards, and yet the industry still sometimes saw her as a symbol, not a person. So she chose to step away, not as a failure, but as an act of self-preservation. There were rumors that she had retired, that she had been pushed aside, that she no longer fit the mold of a modern supermodel. But Alek never confirmed or denied anything. She just lived. She painted. She traveled. She worked behind the scenes on humanitarian projects. She returned to South Sudan. She helped rebuild schools and gave speeches about hope and resilience. While others chased covers, Alek was building legacy. In 2017, she made a quiet return to the runway for Balenciaga. The crowd erupted, not because she looked like her younger self, but because she still radiated the same strength. Her walk had not changed. It never needed to. She reminded everyone that icons do not expire. They evolve. Alek Wek did not disappear. She simply shifted into something deeper, something less visible, but more lasting. And in a world obsessed with constant presence, her choice to step away became its own act of power. Alek Wek did not just change fashion. She changed what we thought fashion could do. She was not a trend. She was a shift, a deep, irreversible shift in who was allowed to be beautiful and who was allowed to be seen. Before Alek, the runway had never known a face like hers. After Alek, it could never forget it. Her legacy is not in how many campaigns she shot, or how many covers she graced. It lives in the silence that followed her first appearance, in the discomfort, in the questions, and then in the transformation. Designers began casting differently. Magazines stopped apologizing for melanin. Photographers started adjusting their lenses, not just for light, but for depth. She bent the very rules of exposure, both photographic and cultural. More than a supermodel, she became a compass, a North Star for anyone who had ever been told they were too dark, too foreign, too other. Her name became shorthand for power, grace, and resistance. Even today, when new models of African descent rise, they are called the next Alek Wek, but there is only one. She once said, "You do not have to change your features to be beautiful. You only have to recognize that you always were." That message outlives photo shoots. It outlives fashion weeks. It lives in every girl who stands tall in her own skin, because Alek did it first. So perhaps the question is not whether Alek Wek changed fashion. The question is whether fashion ever deserved her.